No, está bien, déjalo porque se complica. Vamos a tener que seguir aprendiendo, practicando en otros momentos. Yo te escucho porque yo te tengo acá ahora, que la otra vez no te tenía, entonces eso es práctico. No, está bien, déjalo porque ahora se complica. Vamos a tener que... Sí, entonces, ya estamos en vivo. Otra vez, gracias a todos por venir. Tenemos capacidad para 100 personas, somos 53, ¿estamos bien? Hari va a venir en 10 minutos. Y mientras tanto, acá tenemos Panchadara, que nos va primero a cantar un poco de Hare Krishna, y después le va a cantar el feliz cumpleaños a Daksha, porque hoy es el cumpleaños de Daksha. Y esta reunión tiene mucho que ver con todo la raíz de Daksha Kanya y todo su deseo inmenso de juntarnos a todos. Ok, Panchadara, take it away.
Ok, ¿cuánto? ¿1 minuto, 2, 3?
Sí, unos minutitos.
Decime así.
3 minutos,
Decime
dale.
así.
Dale.
Decime 3, 2, ahí, ok.
Ok.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
¡Arriba! Pueden desmutear.
Y ya.
Pueden desmutearse para saludarlo a Panchadara.
Y el cumple de nuestra querida Daksha.
Vamos.
Panchakalpa.
Panchakalpa Taruvyasa Kripasi que los cumpla feliz, que los cumpla feliz, que los cumpla Machita, que los cumpla feliz. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Daksha Devi ki.
Jai Daksha.
Gracias.
Gracias. El mejor cumpleaños en años. El mejor cumpleaños de la vida. De verdad.
Feliz cumpleaños, madre.
Todo mi amor.
Sí, Daksha, una genia ahí. Muchas gracias, Panchadara. Los puse como spotlight, y ahora no sé cómo sacarlos, pero ya los voy a tratar de sacar. Por favor, para las preguntas va a estar ella a veces no puede hacer las traducciones, entonces las va a hacer Krishna Shakti. Krishna Shakti, no sé si querés decir algo para que tu nombre se vuelva primero.
Yes, I believe there is one person here from Russia, and so I will be translating the questions from Spanish to English, and everything will be spoken in English. And we have all these all the devotees here who speak Spanish, most of them, and they have their own. They have Daitesha Das, who is translating from English to Spanish. So, yeah.
¿Puedes decir lo mismo en
Sí, acabo
español?
de decir porque tenemos una persona que es de Rusia y que probablemente no está entendiendo nada de lo que nosotros estamos hablando. Entonces estaba explicándole que todo va a ser hablado en inglés y que Daitesha muy graciosamente está haciendo nuestro traductor al español, y las preguntas van a ser hechas en español y yo las voy a traducir en inglés, al inglés, para, iba a decir para el Maharaj, para Harikeśa Svāmī. Le gusta ser llamado de Hari, ¿verdad?
Sí, él quiere que todos lo llamemos Hari, no Harikesh, no Vishnupada, incluso que a todos nos cueste, eso es su deseo, y cada uno tenemos que respetar el deseo del otro.
Ok, es eso. Entonces, gracias Gandini por organizar
no
todo.
No vas a poder porque él no te escucha a vos. Ahora, por ejemplo, solo te escuchamos, apenas que hables a través de Ruth, sí, a través de Ruth, pero como eso no estaba funcionando, vamos a dejarlo así. Sí. Claro, y yo igual te escucho, entonces yo cualquier cosa me hablas a mí, si vos querés que yo le pregunte, o si él está muy rápido y te perdiste, él me dijo que le avise, no sigas, decir, yo te estoy escuchando a vos y estoy escuchando acá también. ¿Se entiende? Bueno, ya está por empezar, un minutito, ya llega, así que estamos todos así muy deseosos.
Un
Por
minutito.
favor, mutense, sean conscientes.
Una cosita más, por favor. Una cosita más. Tenemos 3 o 4 devotos de Brasil. Si no entienden algo, por favor, envíame un mensaje por chat. Yo puedo decirle a ustedes. Pero espero que comprendan el español, ¿ok? Se não entendem algo, por favor, me enviem uma mensagem pelo chat e eu vou responder a mensagem de vocês, tá bom? Muito obrigada pela participação de vocês. Haribol. Gracias, Gandini. Ya me voy a callar.
Ok, no, gracias por todo tu servicio, Nectario. Bueno, yo estoy nerviosa, no sé por qué, es el excitement, es así, pero... Bueno, quiero estar segura, esta Militeya va a mirar el orden en que cada uno va a hacer una pregunta. Entonces Militeya está encargada de tener una lista de quién va primero en la pregunta, quién va segundo. Así que si ustedes tienen preguntas, lo más cómodo es que encontrar este botoncito donde dice 3 puntitos y dice levantar la mano, porque se ve azul y queda en la lista de participantes, y para Militeya es más fácil. Ahora, cuando Militeya, digamos, le toca a Ashi, y Ashi no está respondiendo, decimos Ashi, 2 veces, y no responde, vamos al próximo. Así que, si ustedes quieren hacer una pregunta, tienen que estar atentos, ¿sí? Yo sé que hay problemas tecnológicos, pero más o menos para no...
Gandini, ponedme de cojos, por favor.
Sí.
Que entré con la computadora.
Ahí está. Daksha, muy importante. ¿Podés grabar en tu computadora?
¿Cómo hago para grabar?
Fíjate en los 3 puntitos. Que
no tengo puntitos acá en la computadora. Por favor, perdóname, pero dice grabar. ¿Pongo grabar?
Sí, grabar en tu computadora. Sí.
¿Lo pongo ahora?
Sí, sí.
Continuar. Gracias. Pim, pim, pim.
Ya está.
Ok, perfecto. ¿Está? Listo. Está Kaveri, la engancha la Kaveri, que capaz que no estaba anotada, y le acabo de mandar el link.
Ahí está Hari, chicos. O sea, Hari.
Solo última cosa, Gandini, te mando las preguntas por WhatsApp.
Dale.
¿Está lista? Vale.
¿Ya anotaron? Estamos escuchando, Daitieya. Hari, ¿dónde está?
Hang on.
There you are.
Hang on. There we go.
Yay, Hari.
Hello, hello,
hello.
Hello, hello.
So nice to see you here. We are so excited that you are joining us. We have 60 participants here. We are also live in YouTube. And we are more than excited to see all faces that we haven't seen in a long time. And also excited you are taking the opportunity to enlighten us about compassion. Muktinath will read a little bit of your bio. We have Daitieya translating. Daitieya, ¿no estás hablando? No, porque, sí, cuando estaba hablando en inglés nadie me entiende, si no. Daitieya wasn't translating what I was saying, but anyway, so Muktinath will read in Spanish.
¿Leo entonces?
Sí. And Hari, we don't have a translation for Hari, but you already know what he's saying.
¿Estamos bien? No te escucho, Gandini.
What? He's doing it.
Comenzamos, Tina.
Creo que él lo sabe, creo que él supervisó esta
Sí,
traducción.
sí. Léela.
Pero no lo escucho, Gandini. ¿Me está diciendo que sí, que lea?
Sí, está diciendo que leas.
Te escucho de ti ya, perfecto. Pues nos ponemos a leer. Hare Krishna a todos, devotos. Un placer verlos. Jai Harikesh. Ok. Robert Campagnola, Hari, antes también conocido por el título de Harikeśa Svāmī, en los primeros años de ISKCON transitó el no poco riesgoso y sí colmado de recompensas sendero de la completa entrega a Śrīla Prabhupāda. Su éxito en la misión de traducción y distribución de los libros de Śrīla Prabhupāda en vastas regiones del mundo había crecido a un nivel sin precedentes, siendo uno de los más estrictos y firmes seguidores de Prabhupāda. Fue reconocido por miles de seguidores como Prabhupada Sumedhasam, la inteligencia de Prabhupada, y logró una profunda visión en la esencia del Bhakti-Yoga, en la manera que fuera más relevante y aplicable para la sociedad moderna. En la cumbre del éxito y cuando la misión de la traducción, producción y distribución de los libros estaba establecida y prácticamente cumplida, se abocó de pleno corazón al punto más problemático y negligenciado durante años de los temas sociales de nuestro movimiento, habiéndose él mismo expuesto al dolor de mujeres oprimidas y niños maltratados de ISKCON. Robert Campagnola apenas sí pudo superar este enorme quiebre como ser humano. En años posteriores de recuperación de su salud, reconsideró algunos dogmas mentales y sociales con respecto al proceso del Bhakti para hacer que la esencia, la conexión amorosa con Rādhā y Kṛṣṇa, fuera más accesible y abierta a la experiencia directa de aquellos que lo desearan y estuvieran listos para ello, incluso aunque por alguna razón no estuvieran totalmente dedicados de tiempo completo en los tradicionalmente prescritos aspectos del proceso de sadhana. Pionero práctico en el sendero de espiritualidad sin demandas ni expectativas, tal como él mismo le llamara, en la base del Templo de la Energía Divina en San Petersburgo, Rusia, Hari experimentalmente probó el método de la conexión directa meditativa con las deidades como efectivamente aplicable, incluso para las personas comunes o sin preparación. En el curso de numerosas charlas y meditaciones, Hari continúa compartiendo sus visiones místicas y profundas en la esencia de la conexión con el espíritu, la energía viviente y su fuente. Él está aquí para nosotros, poniéndose a disposición para ayudarnos en el precioso equilibrio con respecto al ser y el hacer, y en todos y cada uno de los momentos del aquí y ahora, en nuestro sendero espiritual de la expresión de nuestra esencia divina. Hare Krishna.
Jai Hari. We still hope the technology is with us.
So, should I just start?
Please.
Will you mute you? Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Gandini for the wonderful things that she does. The works that she's doing, that she's setting up in Argentina now. She told me about it. She was here some weeks ago. I was very impressed, and working together with Daksha, who's doing absolutely fantastic things. I'm sure plenty of other people are doing wonderful things, but I was just brought aware of their contributions recently again, and I just wanted to express my appreciation, and also for inviting me to share with you today. I must admit, I'm not feeling terribly confident. I mean, anyway, I'm not a very confident person. I know that sounds strange, but I'm not overwhelmed with confidence usually. I fake it pretty good though. So anyway, and the reason is, well, multiple reasons. First of all, a lot of you I don't know. Those of you who I know, I'm very happy to see. And I'm now going to address you. I'm now going to try to speak to you about a topic which Gandini gave me. And please don't worry about that. What's interesting is that I never speak on topics that people give me. So this is really a first, where, okay, you've got to speak about this here. Spiritual compassion versus material compassion. So that made me very, whoa, how am I going to do that? So I thought, well, I'll try to be loyal to this topic. I shall research it. I shall try to figure out the various definitions of compassion, dictionary definitions, maybe even the Latin definition from the root word compassion in English. I'll try to understand how different cultures speak about it. I'll try to make sense of how this is discussed in spiritual circles. And I will do my very best to give an analysis about this topic. Yeah, that didn't work. That was a complete failure. I read a lot, and every time I read some stuff, I went, oh. I was very impressed. I asked my wife, and I said, well, I've got this topic Gandini gave me. So how am I going to deal with it? She just came right out and gave me cognitive behavioral therapy's viewpoint on empathy and how that relates to compassion. And then she went into the concepts of emotional intelligence in the way in which it relates to compassion. Very technical. I mean, this lady's got all kinds of degrees on her wall.
One second, we lost Daitieja. Daitieja. Okay, ahí está. We're okay, back.
She has all kinds of degrees on the wall. She has all kinds of licenses in the state of Florida. And she lost me. I listened and tried to pretend, you know, like anybody would, that I actually understood her, but I didn't. So I was a bit of a rascal. So then I tried to catch up, and I read all this stuff from cognitive behavioral therapy about, because my original thing was I was going to say, I don't like this word, compassion. And I don't, but I was going to start by speaking about that. I was going to say, I would rather talk about empathy versus compassion. That was going to be my big thing. Until she started talking. And I read cognitive behavioral therapy's take on it. And then I said, oh my God, empathy, it doesn't work. So then I realized I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble because all you nice people have come. I know you're very busy. I know you have many important things to do. Your lives, each and every one of them, are important, not only to you, but to your family members or others who you care for, or those who you impact in this world. I know you have many important things to do. So now you have to come and hear me. Oh, I had better, do it right. So now there's a pressure on me. I'm feeling stress. And this stress was building up. And I was starting to say all day, walking around the house, oh no, woe is me. What am I going to do? So then I walk into my temple room. I have a beautiful temple room. It was the first part of my house I made. I have gorgeous Rādhā Kṛṣṇa deities and Lord Chaitanya Gaurnitai deities and all kinds of other deities. I really have a wonderful altar. And so then I said, my lords, Radhasham, and I have a really nice place to just sit and be. And I said, what am I going to say? Because these people are expecting something. And I immediately got back. Don't work, don't act according to their expectations, because you don't know what their expectations are right now. I thought, that's interesting. What I usually do when I start to give a lecture in front of people is that I read the room. When you read the room, it means that you see who's there, what the audience is. I don't mean what they look like. I don't mean how they're dressed. I mean energetically. I try to energetically understand my audience. I read their energy. So the deities, first thing they said to me was, don't act according to what you think their expectations are. So I said, oh, thank you, because that's what I usually do. But they knew that. So I have to understand what is the energy of my audience. And then they told me, compassion is completely linked to the concept of being of service. I don't like to use the term servant. I find that term to be challenging. I used to joke with some people that, when there was a conflict, people used to write, "Dear Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. You are a stupid idiot who knows nothing. You're nonsense. Your humble servant, me." So I used to always laugh at that there is this context of a humble servant who just spoke not as a humble servant, but as somebody who is upset, somebody who's angry, somebody who has something to say, somebody who is not happy with the other person. So I started to not be very happy with the concept of humble servant. Well, in my life, I don't necessarily feel humble all the time. I mean, sometimes I don't feel humble at all. I don't even think about it. I'm doing things. Humility is not something that enters into the picture. And servant, well, if I'm your servant, I have to do what you want when you want it. That doesn't always fit with me. I would rather be of service, which means when I can do something which is of value to you, and it works with me. So when I'm sitting here, I'm sharing with you this idea that I'm struggling, not because I need to get it off my chest, but because I'm sharing with you how I feel. Because another instruction from Gandini today, just be yourself, it'll be fine. Don't be embarrassed. I need to use you in this case. So just be yourself. Okay, myself, who I am, when I speak, I just share. I'm not interested in preaching. I do not preach. I do not teach. Maybe I'm a mentor or a coach sometimes. But what I like to do is understand you. What it is that makes you you, and how I can be of service to you. I feel this is a very basic spiritual principle. Now, Gandini wanted me to speak about this material versus spiritual, whatever. I never talk about matter. I never talk about material things. I don't know why. I just don't like it. I don't like to be placed in a situation where I have to make an analysis between material and spiritual, or matter and spirit, because that gets me in trouble. When I talk about something and I'm trying to give a definition of matter, at one point it breaks down. I mean, if you were to just take simply a Shastric perspective on this, Kalvam Sarvidam Brahma, everything's Brahman. Everything is spirit. So at what point does stuff that which puts together this world we live in stop being stuff and start being spirit? It's a very troublesome discussion. The way that discussion is usually taken care of is that it depends on the mentality. It depends on how you see things. It depends on your motivation. But is it really? That is a very interesting point. Let's take, for example, the word compassion, which I'm supposed to talk about. let's start this discussion of compassion with empathy. I can empathize with people. Let's say I'm a Hindu. I empathize with other Hindus. And I look at Muslims and I say, not good. Killing cows, making all kinds of impersonalism. I can go through all kinds of criticisms. I can say it the same way with Buddhists. I can even go after the Christians in the same way. My community is the object of my empathy. Same thing for politics. Certain political parties, the people have empathy for others in their political party and do not have empathy for those who are outside of it. Empathy is something that is very much tied with how you feel. Sympathy, empathy, compassion, they're linked in that way when you start talking about material. I may have compassion, but I may do it for my own personal gain. I may, as a political leader, say I have compassion for these different communities in my zone of where I get elected from, my geopolitical area. I say I have compassion and I wish to do something for them to get votes. I may even do something minimally or as much as required to get votes. My compassion in that case is very much connected with my own personal gain. That certainly is very material. Yet, I would say something else. I would say, it is not a broad enough definition. It is not a broad enough vision. My compassion and empathy, if it's related to my gain or the gain of my group, if it has limits, and if those limits are meant for personal aggrandizement, then the compassion is tainted. My sympathy is tainted. So sure, we can call it material. But spiritualists also have compassion. The problem I had with this word, and it was a big problem, was I thought back on many times, even I spoke about it, or others would act on it, to have compassion for the fallen, conditioned souls, who we are not one of. To have compassion for, to give them a book, act of compassion, that we know we are elite. We are a group of elite personalities who have the answer. And thus the compassion is to a certain extent directed downward. I don't like that. That's just me personally. I think that there's a problem with that. I've been guilty of it too. not trying to pretend some superior, ethical, moral high ground. Forget that. But when I think about the concept of spiritual compassion, I go back to exactly how the deities put it. To be of service unconditionally is spiritual compassion. To be of service unconditionally. Well, without all the conditions I just spoke about. Conditions such as I get something out of it, or some group I'm connected with gets something out of it, or somehow or another I will benefit in a manner which people can't see. It's a hidden benefit. What happens when that takes place? Well, when people find out that your compassion is conditional, as almost all of it is, unless it's of a very high quality, they lose faith. They feel cheated. They feel, and this is the most important word, betrayed. They feel betrayed when they realize that what they thought was being shared or gifted by another person had conditions on it which ultimately gave that other person benefit somehow or another. They feel betrayed. It's kind of like, Facebook. People thought, oh, how nice, this Facebook. We share with each other. We show everybody what we ate for breakfast and the latest joke and who we went together with. What a nice service. And then we found out Facebook was selling our information with Cambridge Analytica, and that all we did was data to give us ads. We were the product. We became the product. Google, when we search, we think, oh, how nice. But they're collecting information about us. We are the product. We are what is being harvested. We are the ones who are paying with every bit of us. And we felt betrayed. But then again, one could say, well, what do you expect? It's a business. This is a business. So they're using us. Any business endeavor where we sell compassion ultimately gets us in trouble, ultimately causes feelings which are contrary to what we intended. So when the concept is presented that spiritual compassion is the desire and activity, I'll get more into that later, the desire and activity to unconditionally be of service. Empathy is a feeling. Compassion implies doing something to help others, to be of service to others, even and especially when it gives nothing back to you. This feeling of unconditional service is spiritual compassion. Anything below that is not. Maybe attempting or learning or trying to, or some stage of neophyte coming to being a candidate for, but unconditional desire to be of service requires a certain kind of cultivation, a certain kind of attitude. And it is an attitude. It's born of perception, that we perceive the reality of what is before us now. Not that you perceive a reality of some promised future and you act to give people that promised future. In most cases, it's also promised to you. So you're basically maybe 2 steps ahead and working to that. The actual spiritual compassion is based on the perception of who you are. When you perceive and you are aware of who you are, you're able to see without the filter of your own impediments, your own desires, your own expectations. If you really wish to be of service and you are aware of another person's energy, and if they desire it, if they request it, not necessarily with words, but if they send that message to you and you are aware and you perceive a need, something that is significant to them, that you can offer, and you offer it to them simply to be of service without expectation of reward, you are expressing a spiritual energy, a spiritual exchange, whereby you are feeling your own spiritual being. You are immersed in that feeling of being, and you are sharing what others feel they need, especially when you are sharing that love, which you are. If you look at how Lord Chaitanya shared with people all over India when he went on tour, he simply embraced them. One should not necessarily think he embraced them because we don't know why he embraced them. We can't assume that because we are preachers, we do things to give somebody something, whether they like it or not, whether they want it or not. Lord Chaitanya, we have no right to say he did that too. Yet that is often an assumption made. In my mind, which is my feeling, he just embraced people because he was feeling love for them. wanting to share by just embracing them as you would embrace a friend, as you would embrace anyone who you had love for. He's Rādhā and Kṛṣṇa. They have love for everyone. So embracing everyone is natural for him. He doesn't need to have a motive to do it. And when he embraced them, naturally, the love he is, they contacted it and it flowed. And they became mad in love of God. This is without expectation, without a need, without any desire, simple exchange, loving exchange. This feeling of compassion is different than any other feeling of compassion which includes any form of exchange other than love and the desire to be of service. So let's go back a little bit. Let's talk about, I don't know. Let's say you're in front of somebody and they're crying. Or let's say they're devastated by loss. I remember very interesting exchange. My bathroom had a huge leak. It was flooded, everything rotten. Goravani, who you might know from Brazil, he was tearing up the place. I had to get tiles. And I couldn't get everything together in time before he came. Because in the few months up to the point when I should have picked up the tiles, my little doggy died in front of me. I was devastated. Our horse, our main dressage horse, who was a champion, died. My father died. Very significant grief I was carrying around. So I went into the tile store and I said, I know it's been 6 months since I ordered these and I've had no time. And then I explained. And the lady behind the counter doesn't know me, came out and gave me a big hug. And I was so deeply moved by that. How causeless that was, without any expectation of return. Was that material? I mean, my grief, is that material? Well, you can define it that way if you wish to. But you can also see it in another way. I had deep spiritual connections to all those. I mean, our property here is a sanctuary for all creatures. We have all kinds of creatures here. We don't use any pesticides. We don't use herbicides. We don't trap them. We don't cause them difficulty. If they're hungry, we feed them. We take care of all the creatures here. I call them God's creatures, and this place belongs to the deities, so it's a shelter. I don't see that as material. I see this beautiful, divine nature manifesting here. The way the plants are growing, the way the creatures are moving. When people come here, they feel it. When people interact here, they say, it's nice. We like this. It's a shelter. And I don't call it material. Well, what's material about it? It's temporary. Sure. Do you know anything in your life that's not? I mean, there's a difference between philosophy, things you're supposed to believe, because you read it. Philosophy is fine. These wonderful instructions are great. But the reality of our situation is not always philosophical. So does that mean we're just living these lives material? Okay, not if you're doing service. Sure. But there are many problems with that, which is why people have problems and disturbances within their service. They have conflicts. They may not feel at all very happy with what they're doing. So the idea of how you intend to do what you do, how to see what you see, how to perceive, and the awareness you have is all essential. Because if you are aware of God's energy everywhere, and don't forget, when I started, I said, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. I don't mean that in an impersonal way. I mean, all energy is Krishna's energy. It is all of that quality of Brahman. If you make the adjustment to see it that way and be aware of other living beings, be aware of their energy, and feel the spirituality of their energy, in the same way you might come before the deities and just feel their energy. Instead of coming before the deities and saying, oh, I'm so fallen. Oh, I'm so sinful. Please save me. Please protect me. We stand before the deities and ask them for things. Instead of doing that, come before the deities and just feel their energy. Use that empathetic capacity that we all have. We all have the capacity of empathy. It is intrinsic. It is integral in our being. The capacity of awareness, the capacity to feel. Our consciousness is created, the external manifestations of it, by our perception and feelings. Our self is fully sentient and can feel. It is feeling. It may express feeling. It may receive feeling. These are energies. I can feel energy, kind of like when you're standing in the sunshine and you absorb the sunshine. It is the same methodology that you can stand before the deities and absorb and feel their energy without thinking about it. Like when you stand in the sun and feel the sunshine, you don't think about it. You don't say, oh, let me feel. You just feel. You just absorb. Because the sun is such a huge energy, just comes to us. We don't have to struggle to do it. It's there because we feel. that energy is presented, we accept that energy. We stand before the deities. Their power is unlimited. Without knowing that, one can't understand them. And just accept their energy because they're giving it. When you come, or if any of us go before the deities and start asking things and begging things, we're not accepting, we're projecting. Our energy is moving that way. The deity's energy is moving this way, towards us. So we stand before the deities and just accept their gift, their energy. This should not be the slightest difficulty because their energy and our energy are the same energy. And because they have such huge power, for us to feel that energy is easy because it's our energy. And when we let go of all restrictions and just feel their energy, feel their love, just accept it without placing ourselves in the way as a barrier, without expectation, without desire, without requirement. Just accept and let that energy flow to us. Then our awareness transforms to what it should be, what it always has been. That is, that spiritual being we are, and always have been, and always will be. Because this is life, living, conscious energy. So we accept it. And we can give our loving energy to the deities as well. We can express our loving energy to the deities because this is the reciprocation. Reciprocal relationship between Rādhā and Kṛṣṇa and us. Rādhā and Kṛṣṇa and all living beings. So each and every living being is reflecting that energy, that energetic reciprocation. Some accept it better than others. The acceptance is what is important. And if you wish to be of service unconditionally, there is no greater service than to accept the energy of the Lord, Rādhā and Kṛṣṇa, and express it to others without getting in the way. Simply being a medium through which the energy of the divine flows throughout this world. Everyone seeks that. Everyone wishes that. Every living being wishes to feel that. Because this is the topmost feeling you could possibly have, to feel the divine, to live within that divine energy. Once one has caught that mood, one develops a certain attitude towards others. I was just sharing the other day when we had the 50th anniversary reunion of Prabhupada's first going to Moscow with Russian people. Very large gathering. I forgot what I was going to say. As soon as I said that, I went, oh my goodness, that was cool. But what was it I was going to say? I have no idea. It happens when you get old. Oh. I don't remember. Yeah, there we go.
Estaba hablando de la energía. You were talking about feeling the energy, so maybe about that.
Well, anyway, to try to recover from that, I have no idea. Okay, here we go. So the idea being that what I like to do is to see the divine acting everywhere and be a conduit and just share. Oh, now I remember. Yeah. I told them, I said, you know, I'm getting older. Don't ask about it. So, as you can see, you forget things. Oh boy, let me tell you, you walk in a room and then you go, why am I here? Oh yeah, happens more times than you want to know. So I said, well, one of the main things that I like to do, especially since, the last 20-something years, is I just like to practice kindness. I just like to feel, I just like to be kind. Just like we said before, compassion is an act. It's something you do. Empathy is something you feel. Well, kindness is also something you show. I mean, there are many reasons to be upset with people. I mean, unlimited reasons. Unlimited reasons to be upset with politicians or with criminals or with pseudo-religionists or real religionists or the person down the street, or you can find unlimited reasons to be upset because basically, as many people or events there are, there's a reason to be upset. But I realized in my own life that what I like to do the most, what I feel best about me doing, is kindness. Like I go out of my way. You know, tech support people, they're always being hassled. Oh God, they're being hassled all the time. Or you want support at the something else, you know, where you bought an item, it was broken and you're all indignant. And I go out of my way to say, I'm sorry for bothering you. I know it's your job, but you're stressed and I don't want to add to your stress. And check out people at the counter. I say, oh, thank you so much for caring for me today. I try very hard. I go out of my way in every interaction to be kind. Now, I'm not a crazy fanatic. I mean, if somebody's trying to run me over, or somebody's causing harm, or, okay, I get it. There are limits, yes. But when these circumstances are not there, showing kindness, being kind, not artificially, but actually displaying kindness, the act of kindness, it makes that other person's stress reduce. It makes them feel so much better. And that makes you feel so much better. It's the principle of reflection. And again, purely spiritual energy at work here. That you are expressing that kindness is love. You are expressing kindness. They feel it because there's no demand there. I mean, after all, the checkout person is just going to take your money and put it in a bag. So you have no demand of them doing it better. It's the same. But you express that kindness and they feel it because they generally don't feel it. And it's so out of the character that it just makes them stand up and really feel something. And that reflects back to you. The more you express that kindness, that's an act of either of speaking or just like that lady when she embraced me. Immediate reciprocation. I was just so grateful for that when I was so stressed. Animals pick this up instantly. They are so aware of energy. Just like we have a hawk here. I was telling that to Gandini. Generally, people don't like hawks. They're afraid of hawks. They want to get them away because they, they're dangerous characters. We made a deal with the hawk. How do you do that? Well, you stand at a safe distance and you send them your energy of acceptance. We accept you here. This is your place. We know that. We're not going to harm you. We accept you. They understand that. The crows. People don't like crows because they're black and they caw and mock and whatever. We give them crackers. They remember that. They come and give us like paper clips and buttons and rubber bands. Crows are incredibly intelligent and they always reciprocate. They remember that's a good person. So we do this with the animals all the time. Our horses. Horses are so sensitive. If you're riding a horse and you freak out, the horse freaks out. If you're calm, you can keep that horse calm. When you come before a horse, it looks in your eyes and it knows instantly whether you're a good person or not, whether you're someone that this horse will be friends with, whether you're someone that can be trusted. So I go before, well, they know me, of course. I'm the guy who gives them food sometimes, but that's another thing. But I go before them and I just send them my love. And they feel it instantly and they reciprocate. My wife does, it's called equine therapy. It is a methodology of psychotherapy where the client comes, the patient comes and chooses a horse to work with and becomes friends with the horse and shares his troubles or her troubles with the horse. And the therapist helps them work together. You could not imagine how much the horses feel responsible for that person. The horses know immediately they're a therapist. And they stand there in the most loving manner and just take all the pain from these people. People love it. You know, veterans who are so damaged from war, so damaged from pain, they love equine therapy because the horses are just so loving and so accepting of them. Animals have this incredible, and to say that animals are like, oh, less intelligent means one doesn't understand what intelligence is. You know, there's also emotional intelligence. Animals have incredible capacity of awareness, not only because their lives depend on it, but because it's part of their nature. They are very aware. We are so busy being distracted in so many ways by this and that and the other things, that our awareness is diminished. It's dulled. We have dulled awareness, covered awareness, because we're always constantly, you know, putting things on our capacity to perceive. We're absorbing things. We're wearing coverings more and more. So seeing everything for its spiritual nature means to be aware. It means to feel spiritual energy and recognize it. Walking in a forest and feeling that spiritual energy, that divine energy, that living conscious energy there of these magnificent trees. Or to be within a group of others and just accept them for who they are, without demand, without expectation. But that means to first accept ourselves, who we are. To accept ourselves as we are, without demanding that we be something else, that we be somebody else, that we be better, or we be more skilled, or we become perfect. To just accept, I am. I am who I am, and I'm fine with that. And in that attitude, come before the deity and just accept their energy of love. And as we are, without considering defects or faults, because these things are just temporary. Our true nature is this spirit being, divinity. And just accept the energy of the deity. And to reciprocate. And to practice kindness. To practice being of service without expectation of return. You know that lesson of Krishna and the gopis when he left them. And he said, this is not business. This is only love. One of the fundamental, most important principles of selflessness and divine service. The idea to be of service without any expectation of return. So I'm not sure if I have addressed the question in the way in which it was intended, but I certainly have addressed the question. So, do you intend on this going longer? Or can I take a break and you could then maybe do some questions?
Yeah, it is up to you. I want personally thank you because you addressed the question and you show me with your explanation my limitations of understanding spirituality.
Oh no, that wasn't the point.
But I understood a little bit, you know, that I don't want to take this for my own, but I can explain later. I understood. But yes, we can take questions right now if you have energy. We thank you because I know this is late for you.
So I'm just going to take a little 3-4 minute break, okay?
Okay.
I need to walk
In the
around.
meantime, we figure out who has questions. Thank you. Sí, yo te escucho. Que eso no era un negocio, sino que era a través de amor. No, que, bueno, yo no sé si alguien más se acuerda qué dijo, pero yo lo que entendí era... Sí, claro. Claro.
Gandini, nadie más está oyendo lo que están hablando ustedes, ¿ok? Entonces nomás te digo que no sé de qué hablas en este momento.
Posiblemente, porque tú no, those of you who are listening to English, you are not hearing the part of the Harikeśa, because the Harikeśa is on the speaker. I have him here. But those who speak Spanish, they hear the Harikeśa and me. But those who speak English, only they hear me.
Okay, so the questions will be, are you going to need me to translate? Because I'm not listening, I'm not hearing anything.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Don't worry, because we are not, the conversation, the only question is that the Harikeśa is talking, the Harikeśa is talking to me alone and everyone who is listening to the Harikeśa. But if you don't have chosen to listen to the Harikeśa, you are not hearing his part. But when the questions arise, Krishna Shakti, they will open the microphones and then you can translate. All right, so the question is, who has a question next? Daksha, ¿tenés pregunta? ¿Que levantaste la mano o no? Ah, ok. ¿Alguien tiene? Claro.
Ok, cuando tenemos preguntas, ¿qué las hacemos? ¿Con audio?
No. Ustedes hacen la pregunta. Hay un feedback. Ok. Ustedes hacen la pregunta y Krishna Shakti la traduce. Palabra por palabra, oración por oración, ¿se entiende? Entonces...
No te escuchamos, Gandini.
¿No me escuchan?
Ahí sí.
Bueno, no sé. La pregunta se va a hacer en español y Krishna Shakti va a traducir simultáneamente parte por parte de esa pregunta. ¿Se entiende? En inglés, para que Vishnupan escuche. Entonces, lo que habla en español, la van a escuchar en español, y Krishna Shakti la va a hablar en inglés. Hari se fue un minuto, por eso puso la pantalla en negro. Fue a tomar agua, fue al baño, no sé, un poco de descanso, porque viene hablando mucho. Pero nosotros, en este momento, tendríamos que organizarnos quién va a hacer preguntas. ¿Alguien tiene preguntas? Daksha, ¿ahora sí tenés? Bueno, Daksha, número 1. ¿Quién más tiene? Militeya.
Kaveri levantó la mano y Param levantaron la mano.
Entonces tenemos Daksha, Kaveri y Param. Entonces
Sí.
vos decís.
Pero no primera yo.
El audio de Daksha se escucha muy mal.
Sí, porque
tienen que apagar. ¿Por qué no apagan el celular mejor? Desconecten el celular y queden solo en el de Daksha.
Sí.
Me parece más sensato.
A ver, Daksha, habla ahora.
¿Ahora está bien?
No, todavía hace ruido. Bueno, tenemos 3 personas. ¿Hay más personas? Param, sí. ¿Querés empezar vos, Param?
Digo, la pregunta, ¿la escribo o la hago?
No, ahora cuando venga Harikesh, la vas a hablar y Krishna Shakti la va a traducir, pero así que habla despacio para que ella traduzca pedacitos a la vez.
¿Y ella me está escuchando ahora?
Krishna Shakti,
Sí,
¿estás escuchando?
estoy escuchando. ¿Me escuchan bien?
Sí.
Sí.
Ok, perfecto.
I'm back.
Daitesha is got lost on the last analogy you gave for the gopis. And he was asking that, but we can go back and revise the video afterwards if you want.
What should I do?
We have, I don't know, you can retell the last, you say the pastime, Rādhā and Kṛṣṇa, and the everything was love, Nova business.
Yes.
If you want to repeat that. And then we had 3 people already for questions.
Okay, repeating I don't want to do. Sorry.
Okay, so we can listen later. Don't worry about it.
Just ask me the questions.
Okay, Param, you will be the first.
Hello, Hari.
I'm going to.
Here. Thank you.
I'm going to.
Hello. Gracias por
Wave your hand
la
so I
clase.
know where you are.
I put the next to you. If you put a speaker view, you should see him.
Speaker view.
On the little top right corner, it says view.
Oh.
And you can put speaker.
I see you.
You don't see. Habla.
Hola, hola.
Okay, I'm going to take. Is it working now?
Yes. Okay.
It worked.
Muchas gracias por la clase, Hari. Gracias por invitarnos.
Thank you so much for inviting us to your class.
Gracias por invitarnos a practicar algo que a veces no estamos tan acostumbrados y que es muy bueno para el mundo del Bhakti.
Thank you so much for inviting us to practice something that we not always are used to, but it's so good for Bhakti.
Mi pregunta es con respecto al servicio incondicional.
My question is regarding the unconditional service.
Parece como una misión imposible hacer algo incondicional para aquel que está condicionado.
Sounds like an impossible mission to do something unconditional for those who are conditioned.
¿De qué manera uno puede expresar esos sentimientos que usted acentuó?
In which way can someone express these feelings that you spoke about?
No solamente expresar, sino también recibir.
Not only to express, but also to receive.
De una manera pura e incondicional, cuando estamos cubiertos.
In a way that is pure and unconditional.
Cuando nuestra condición es condicionada.
Whereas our condition is conditioned. But we want to do something unconditional while we are conditioned.
Si me puede decir algo al respecto de esto.
May you say something about this, please?
Thank
You notice in my talk that I avoided concepts like conditioned, or I avoided talking about, you know, what you don't know. I avoided talking about what you can't do. And that was on purpose. So the fact that you want me to talk about it, I'm going to have to tell you why I don't talk about it. And the reason is because it's like carrying an anchor. If you have to be burdened all the time by your insufficiency to get to the point where you can actually understand these very sublime concepts, you have to carry this anchor with you through the process. The idea that you're a conditioned soul, so you can't understand that which is unconditional, I don't accept. I say, just my opinion, that you're not a conditioned soul, you're a soul. And you have the choice to cultivate acting as unconditionally as you can to be of service. And not only do you have the choice, but I gave a method to do it. When I was talking about coming before the deities and feeling and just absorbing their energy, this has nothing to do with conditioned or unconditioned. This is something totally different. You, the living entity, are spirit soul. You are qualitatively equal to the deities, meaning your energy, their energy, Shakti, Shaktimana, Beja, are the same. When you stand there and just feel their energy, that act of feeling their energy fills you with their energy. And when you feel that, you immediately become aware that this is a very much more powerful version of your energy. It knocks you back. You just feel it, you absorb in it. You're just feeling this enormous, wonderful love energy. And then you can express that same feeling back in your own capacity. You do not need to learn anything to do that. This is natural. The concept or the desire to stop that energy is something you learned. Therefore, you call yourself conditioned. But if you simply desire, if you intend, and if you set your consciousness to the awareness of just feeling you'll be astounded what happens. You just feel. I'll give you an example. Mahashaya, who's also here, thank you, Maha, is going to be bored by this because he's heard it a million times, but here we go. In St. Petersburg, we have, well, we had, and we're making a new version of it, absolutely gorgeous deities. Over six, you have feet or meters in Argentina?
Metros.
So they're 2 meters high. Gornitai. They're huge. And we have Rādhā and Kṛṣṇa. And we have Ganesh. And so the altar is very big because the deities are very big. So many years ago, maybe it was 2003, 2004, 2002. I don't even remember when it was, but it was sometime in the early 2000s. I gave a series of lectures, which were like in workshops, which were meant to connect the audience with the deities. And we went through the process of awareness, of perception, of feeling, to allow yourself to feel, to allow yourself to be aware, to not edit yourself with this idea that you're not good enough. This idea, and this idea alone, is the biggest impediment in spiritual life. I am not good enough. It's false. It's a false idea. It's Judeo-Christian in its nature. Original sin, sinful person, heaven and hell, not good enough. So forget you're not good enough. You are good enough. You were always good enough. And the only way you'll feel not good enough is when you embrace this idea that others have told you, because little babies don't think they're not good enough, they think they're great. So we just embrace this idea that we're not good enough, and we really hug this not good enough idea. And we're always striving to become good enough. But it's all false. We are by nature good enough because we are Krishna's energy. So we don't need to become good enough. We are good enough. So I went through this whole thing with them. In the last day of the 4 lecture series, I had everybody stand up and come before the deities and just feel their energy. Now, these are people who came in off the street. A couple of them came from the building across the street. Some were people who had come for the lectures first time, just when I started. And some were people who had been there before. And of course, a lot were devotees, but that's another thing. But there was a lot of people. We're talking, I don't know, 30, 40 people who had no experience before. And we just felt the deities. I told them about the deities. I said, don't worry about definitions. Don't get hung up about philosophy. Just accept these beings here as powerful beings. And don't just take my word for it. Feel it. If you don't feel it, you can walk out. Nobody's going to be upset. So just hold out your hands, look at them, and just feel their energy. Of course, we had spent 4 days getting to this point. Just feel their energy. And then send your energy to them. And then accept their energy as you are sending your energy, and have it meet in the middle and become us. An embrace of your energy and their energy, and we are now us. And hold that. They stood there, I kid you not, for 1 hour. That's not the best part. I left the next day. I had to go to Moscow. Those people came back every single day for 1 month and did the same thing on their own and re-experienced the deities in that way. This has nothing to do with conditioned or unconditioned or anything. And when you feel that, and you reflect that, you carry that with you, and you reflect that in your interactions. You reflect that in your kindness. You reflect that when someone needs you and you wish to be of service. The main motivation is that love of the deities who so impacted you with their power, that pure power of loving consciousness, which includes everything within it. And you carry that with you and become an agent of the divine. Therefore, I don't talk about conditioned or unconditioned and the problems and the not required.
Thank you. Excellent. Excellent.
Thank you.
Militeja, who's next?
Kaveri sigue.
Kaveri.
Gracias, Kaveri.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Hare Krishna, Hari. First of all, thank you so much for this talk. And thank you so much to Daksha for inviting me. I was doing something else and then I got a message, a link, join. And I joined, and what a surprise to see everybody and to see you and hear you. Now, my question is actually a doubt I had, because I don't know if I misheard or misunderstood during your talk. And 2 concepts that I wanted to see if I could reconcile, hear from you again to see if I got it right. When you said that you weren't comfortable with the definition of servant, being a servant, that you prefer to be of service, I thought I heard that is to give, when that's also okay for me. And
to what?
To give, to be of service, but that is also okay with me.
Yes.
And then I felt also all the examples that you give of compassion were actually requiring like to go the extra mile. There were sometimes out of inconvenience to do something extra that it might not be. I get it, like it's my decision, but might not be okay with me. So sometimes it could be an unexpected situation, or maybe an unexpected someone that you feel antagonistic with, like when you said the example of the political parties. So I thought, of course, within reason, within healthy parameters and non-abusive, I thought that yeah, it's we are to be of service when it's okay with me, but the opportunity of compassion might rise in a moment of inconvenience and challenge, and it's so transformative also.
Well, that's a great question. I mean, yeah. I gave a lecture like, I don't know, some time ago. It was called, "What do you do when you can't?" What happened? She was there and now she's gone. Where do people go in this strange thing? Oh, there you are. Okay. What do you do when you can't? And that's a very important question, because that's exactly what you're bringing up. To be of service, it's not just that it's okay with you and you're okay with it. It's more than that. If, for example, I say, I wish to be of service in a particular situation, I don't mean to say only when it suits me. I do not mean to say that. It means that the act of service to others is something that I am offering. Now, if you're just a servant, the freedom is not there. If you're offering the service, you are creating that. And that's what compassion is about. It's something you do. So I'm offering, but if I offer to be of service in a situation where it's going to be complex, that commitment to offer means much more. Like, for example, I'm taking care of my 94-year-old mother and my 96-year-old uncle who live 35 or 40 minutes that away in Alachua. I have committed to that. And let me tell you, it's rarely convenient. But because I've committed, I do it. And how I feel about that when it's inconvenient is not the issue, because they need my help more than I need a little peace, or I need something to eat, or in certain cases, when I commit, that commitment overrules any of my personal requirements or desires. But there may be other persons who I wish to be of service to, who I don't commit to. So this concept of commitment is also degrees. I may commit to helping you in this 10-minute period of time. I may commit to helping you over a period of time every now and then. That's not that it's conditional. The conditional aspect of it would be only insofar as you give me something in return. I can still do it in an unconditional way, but I have to manage my time. Otherwise, I'll just be torn everywhere. So sanity is required. You know, compassion requires wisdom. Otherwise, it's just foolishness. So nothing, that's why another reason I had a problem with what Gandini asked me to do, because it was all this, oh God, what happened? Why am I sharing a screen? Can you please stop that? I'm lost. Thank you. So I had a problem with this compassion because it puts too much focus on this one word. Everything becomes like jammed on this one word. But spiritual life is not like that. Spiritual life is very all-encompassing. Everything is connected. So this concept of being of service is not an all-encompassing thing. It's when the occasion arises, when it makes sense, and if it's really needed. There are, people who I may have some connection with. I know they need help desperately, but I simply cannot do it. Not because it's nothing in it for me, but because I cannot do it. I'm a little guy here. I'm limited. There's all kinds of conditions in my existence which condition me, if to use that word. I have to work within my environment. I have to act appropriately within my environment, within the given. So none of this affects my desire to be of service, because I do desire to be of service. But how much I can do that, that's not necessarily dependent on what I get out of it. It's dependent on my capacity. And if you need like 5 tons of my service and I can give you only 3 grams, well, we have a problem and I have to deal with it. Does that help you?
Thank you. Yes, very much. Thank you so much for further explanation.
You're welcome for such a good question.
Thank you again. Militesh, who's next?
Quien sigue es Panchadara Das.
Can you just, where's Panchadara? Oh, there you are.
I'm going to do a spotlight so you can see.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Leticia, ¿me escuchás?
I hear you.
Bueno, ok. Quien sea que traduzca. Ok. Quisiera saber si puede expandir un poco eso de que está muy como impuesto, es decir, que somos predicadores, somos los que hacemos por lo demás, somos los que salvamos a la gente, ¿no? Entonces, ¿cómo desarmar ese concepto de que
¿puede, por favor, momento, frase por frase, no si así traduce, no puedo traducir todo lo que estás hablando. Si quiere una traducción perfecta, entonces frase por frase, por favor, empezando otra vez.
Bien, si puede hablar, expandir un poco el concepto de...
Would you please expand a little bit this concepto de?
Ayudar, predicar a otros, estamos dando.
This concept of helping and preaching and helping others that we are talking about, can you expand that a little bit?
Porque está muy impuesto como que siempre estamos dando, como somos el salvador del mundo.
Because it's for us, it's a little imposed as if we are always giving, as if we are the, saviors of the world.
No solo los devotos, sino también la gente que es sanadora, que no sé, que ayuda, siempre piensa que es él el que está dando.
Not only the devotees, but also people who work as caregivers or healers. They think that they're always the ones who are giving, not receiving.
Well,
okay.
I never used the word preaching, so then the word preaching came up. So I'm not sure what that meant, but here I am giving a talk. When I'm giving this talk, from the very beginning, I defined it as sharing. So I'm sharing my experiences. I'm sharing what I have directly experienced. So I'm not taking some philosophical ideas and preaching them. I'm sharing my experiences. That's a very big distinction. And then you use the word help. I'm not sure I can actually help somebody, but I can definitely give them the tools by which they can not only help themselves, but they can see better how to do anything better that they want to do. When it comes to that can be draining, well, sure. I already have in my mind at 7 o'clock my time, no matter what, I'm shutting this down. My throat hurts. You know, I got to walk around. My back hurts. You get the point. I'm a human. Every human has their own limitations. So the idea that I will be just giving, well, when it comes to being a caretaker of my mother and my uncle, well, you know, they gave to me a lot. And I feel a love and connection. So it's not like a burden, you know, taking care of the creatures around here. It's not like a burden. It can be a burden if I see it that way. But let's say I was to get entangled in people I don't know. Let's say I was to get entangled in people I don't really want to be entangled with. I don't actually feel that being of service is part of helping them. So what I do is, if I'm, you know, kind of somebody's focused on me for something, I focus in on what it is that could give them the greatest insight into what it is they wish to, you know, get assistance with. And I try to give them that. If it's something like, give me something, they say like this, give me this, give me that. I may not, or I may be able to give them something. That I don't see that as a burden. But if people are hanging on me, that is a burden. So I avoid that. People who hang on other people, they just drag you down. And I kind of avoid that. That's what I do. It has nothing to do with not wanting to be of service. It has to do with survival. You know, I used to be a lifeguard. And as a lifeguard, we are taught one of the final exam when I was training to be a lifeguard was that the coach would, when you least expect it, jump on you and drag you down under the water. And you had to do something to get out of that. That was the final exam. You know, there were other exams, like you had to swim like 2 miles in a certain amount of time and blah, blah, blah. But the real test was that, and you never knew when it would happen. Because in real life, when somebody's drowning and you go out to save them, you're thinking, I shall save them. If you don't know what you're doing, I shall save them. And the first thing they do is they throw themselves on you to use you as a raft and push you down because you're not a raft. So as a lifeguard, you're very aware of that. And the first thing you do is you go around, grab them by the hair, pull them back, grab them under the neck, and bring them in forcefully. If you have to, you smash them in the head. Grab their hair, grab them around the neck, and bring them in forcefully. Because if you don't save yourself, they're going to kill both of you. So that's kind of common sense. The idea that there has to be self-preservation in this. It's not like blind, unconditional, blind, selflessness, sacrificial lamb. I'm a sacrificial lamb. That's absurd. You have to care. So, again, just to summarize, I don't wish to impose on others, and I don't wish to be imposed on unless I choose to do that. None of these things interfere with the concept of, when you wish to be of service, it should not be conditional with things for yourself. I hope that answered.
Thank you, Hari. It's late, very late for you. I don't know, there is obviously a lot of questions. People haven't seen you or heard you in a long time. So there is a lot of more questions, but I'm realistic of the time. So you tell us how much longer do you want? Daksha had a question. And
okay. It's her birthday. She gets to ask questions.
Daksha?
I advise you all to buy her cookbook. It's fantastic. Beautiful pictures, beautiful artwork, beautiful everything. It's just really, really well done. And I advise you to immediately get a copy.
¿Esto qué hago?
And happy birthday.
Hi, thank you so much. Voy a hablar español igual.
Para que vamos a Krishna Shakti para que te traduzca.
Yes.
Hace ruido, Daksha. Sí,
a ver. ¿Ahora?
Más o menos. Hay que bajar el volumen o apagar, salir de ahí.
Ya salí.
Dale, Daksha.
Ok. Igual la pregunta ya me la contestó cuando le contestó a Parampadam. Igual la puedo decir. Mi pregunta era...
Pará.
Primero, gracias.
First, thank you. And my question is something related to what the previous question Padam asked.
Porque mi pregunta era, me siento medio tonta haciendo esta pregunta, pero mi pregunta era cómo darse cuenta si uno no está como inventando esa relación.
My question sounds a little silly, but it's more like, how can I know, how can I be aware I am not just making up this relationship?
Pero usted me la contestó, es que tengo que sentir y meditar y estar.
But you answered that I have to feel and meditate, and this is it.
Voy a tratar.
I love, that's a great question. It really is. And the reason is that many people become scared of such an exchange with the deities. So we had many workshops on this as well in St. Petersburg. So people always ask me the same question: how can I talk to the deities? How do I know it's not just something I'm making up? Which is a good question. To have that worry, to have that fear is wise. It's wise because we have experience of just the head saying any old thing. So that's a good question. But I gave them a technique. I said, how do you talk to anybody? I said, why would you think that talking to the deity is different than talking to someone else? Are they persons or not? First thing you have to accept, before you get into any detail, are they people or not? Doesn't matter, they're the supreme peoples, none of that matters. Are they people? Are you people? Well, yes. Okay. How do people talk? But I never talked to them before. Well, how do you talk to someone you never talked to before? You start off with, hello. Hello. So our technique went like this. Hello. And just listen. Don't think. Usually conversations, the problem we have with conversations is I talk at you, you talk at me. I got my points, you got your points. Very rarely is there listening. That's why people pay billions of dollars to go to a therapist who goes, because they listen. And they demonstrate they listen by the interaction they make. They know what you said, they analyze, they figure it out, they ask a follow-up question, which is great. That's why you pay them. Generally, people talk at each other. That's the normal communication, talking at. So you sit before the deities, you stand before the deities, you say hello, and you listen. And you listen. Sometimes you hear something. And you reply exactly the way you would having heard that. Here's a leap of faith. Hello, and you listen. It may not just be words. Deities can speak with all the senses. And you listen. And whatever comes, when you say hello, you've already accepted. Whatever comes, you are accepting it. Because if you start saying, oh, I can't do that, well, you'll never have it. You're just going to listen. You're not the issue here. You're not the problem. Hello. Thank you. You'll hear something. Respond to it and listen. And respond to that and listen. The more you do this, the more the communication becomes astonishing, mind-boggling. This practice requires that you're not the center of the universe. You are one of two or three or whatever that are having this conversation. You simply wait. When you say hello, you wait. You speak, you reply. And you develop relationship. Now, I know this might seem radical, and we're doing this over Zoom. When we're doing this in front of the deities in St. Petersburg, it's a whole different ballgame. Because those deities reciprocated with every single person in that room. I would listen, I would hear. Because it's true, they are people. We tend to put the deities in this, on reverence. They're so far away, We just put clothes on them and flowers on them, and we feed them and chant for them, and we come and beg to them. We're not reciprocating with them. Can you imagine how lonely they could be? Think about that. People are coming before you. Imagine you stand somewhere, people come before you, and they put things on you and dress you up, and then they give you food. And they chant in front of you, and then they come before you and say, save me, and please do that, and then they go away. I mean, is that impersonalism or what? In the guise of personalism. And if you actually feel the deities, when you feel their energy, and you make this us, the next logical step is communication. Verbally, if you wish. And everybody, well, not everybody, most people felt it. Some people had enormous doubts. What if it's the question, what if it's all in my mind? I told them, well, so what? How many times do you have conversations in your mind? How much babble do you do with people? So what? Are you the worse for it? And if you really practice to say something and listen, you actually listen, you hear it. And when you start reciprocating, you start hearing things which are wonderful. It changes your life completely. When you come before the deities, there is a reunion. Reunion. Once again, it's we. And it's like, oh, I've been waiting for this. And if you just think about it from the deity's point of view, let's be God for a second and look from the altar down, just for fun. Let's be the deities and look for the altar down. And our friend comes in the room and comes to us and says, hello, my beloveds, and makes this loving we-ness, usness. And they go, oh, how nice. Why not? Why wouldn't they be happy to see you? Instead of the person who just gives them food, you're their friend who comes in and speaks with them. And have faith in yourself, because you are good enough. Have faith in yourself. And even if you mess up sometimes, even if you get it wrong sometimes, it will build and eventually it will become natural. It will become a second nature. It will become that which you've always wanted. Have faith in yourself. And with that, I bid you good night.
Thank you so much. Everybody can, pueden sacarse los micrófonos si quieren saludarlo, pero muchísimas gracias por todo su tiempo, sabiduría. Y
thank you so much. Thank you so much for your.
Hari.
Thank you.
Gracias, Hari.
Hey, Hari.
Bye to all of
Haribo.
you.
Haribo.
Much love.
Otra.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Hasta la próxima.
Thank you.
¡Feliz cumpleaños!
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hari.
Haribo. Haribo.
Sí, Hari. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Thank you.
Gracias a todos. Gracias.
¿Qué hago con la grabación, Gandini?
Ahora
No se vayan,
Sigamos
por
un
favor.
poquito, ahora
No se
tenemos que ir,
vayan.
¿no? ¿O nos cobra
No.
más usted, Madre Gandini? ¿Nos va a cobrar ella? Si nos quedamos un ratito más.
No se vayan, no se vayan, por favor.
Acá estamos todos. Se vayan
Aribó ahí, al corazón, ahí que me están saludando.
Lo que se
Mirá
tienen
la
que ir.
madre Cacúmina uruguaya ahí.
Qué lindo. Primero, voy a responder a Daksha, que es importante,
Claro, Castúa.
porque todo el mundo quiere la traducción en español que grabó Daksha Caña. Daksha Caña, cuando esto vos salgas del Zoom, voy a parar el live, porque eso ya no hace falta que esté live. Cuando salgas del Zoom,